Hey everyone, just wanted to record a quick recap of a couple of good trades I noticed from today in the morning. I'll just go ahead and dive right into it. So first thing is we had a very strong gap up overnight. As you can see, both QQQ and SPX opened above where they closed on Friday after the Friday sell-off. And so one thing I want to emphasize here is how a lot of times we're able to identify setups that occur based on the heat maps in Trinity before they actually reach the levels, right? So that turns it more into uh, when and or if a level hits that we're expecting, then we can play that reaction, right? And it's something that you're able to prepare your thesis a little bit ahead of time. So not all the setups on Trinity are like this, but the ones that are some of my favorites because you're able to plan it well ahead of time. And for someone who's new, right, this is going to be something you have a much higher likelihood of catching because you have more time essentially to build your thesis and to interpret what's going on, right? Whereas if a move is happening really quick, a map's reshuffling very crazy, then it's going to be a lot trickier to adapt as quickly. So that's always one big thing is I like these setups that set up a little bit in advance. So right now price is sort of in no man's land, especially on SPY, right? So SPY, obviously we have these two nodes down here forming a floor. We also have a bit of a ceiling up here, and then we have some higher nodes, but I'm more concerned about what is near price at the moment, right? SPX, we have this node here. We obviously have this larger node down here, but we do also have this node here at 6370, which right now is about two-thirds of the king node, but it'll grow a bit as price drops. Then we also have QQQ with this node down here, 562. Very little volume below there, and then obviously we have a few ceilings on QQQ as well, right? But as price gapped up and we're pushing down, I'm more interested in what floors can we form. So immediately I'm seeing, okay, this 635 level is correlating pretty close to 6370. And we also have this 562 on QQQ, right, which is a little bit under, but it does correlate roughly with all these other levels that I've shown. So yeah, as price continues to push down, what we'll notice is we start tapping into, so it goes, oh, I'm skipping 5 minutes at a time, sorry. So as prices start pushing down, we'll notice we come down, and I think we don't actually quite tap 6730, um, sorry, 66370. But we bounce a little bit early, right? But this 635, which is going to be this line above, so SPY 635 here, we do tap that level and hunt a little bit into it. And then QQQ, we are very close to this 562 level, right? We're just above where we bounce, right? So thesis here is pretty clear. Now, in terms of the chart, this one, at least myself, the main thesis I had here is more from the future side. So there's two ways to look at this. I think anyone who trades like any kind of gap fill, price came, filled this gap for when we gapped up, and then now we're bouncing, right? But then also, if you do any kind of fib retracements, you'll see that we were hitting the zero point 0.5 on ES, and then NQ was a little bit under, but we were approaching the golden pocket. So actually, this trade worked out pretty nicely if you kept a conservative price target. But if you then came and played the double bottom, right? So if we skip over here to 1040-ish, this was actually a much stronger setup. So if you'll notice previous at 10, QQQ, we just had a single positive note. We had a bit of a negative note here, so that we had like a soft inverse rug pull here, but not a very strong one. And then obviously SPX and SPY, we had some very decent nodes, especially SPY. SPX, we did have more, it's a softer node, but definitely the 6370 was a gatekeeper, right, for any lower. By the time 1040 rolls around, what happens is SPX loses a lot of lower volume. So as we come and tap into these levels, um, what you'll notice is this volume below is a lot weaker. 6370 is now the king node on SPX. SPY, this 635 has strengthened a good deal as well. And you'll notice QQQ, this reverse rug pull, has strengthened significantly, right? So it's 563 and the 562 both grew stronger. So the setup across the board was a lot stronger. And now you have this initial price structure where we know price rejected the first time. So now you're saying, okay, if price comes and sweeps it, I'd be willing to play this bounce, right? Obviously, ES actually never swept it, or SPY, or SPX, whichever one you trade. But we came within a couple cents. And then QQQ actually did come and sweep it, right? So we dipped all the way down to 561.5. And also on the future side, right, from the pump overnight, NQ finally tapped into this fib, right? So this golden pocket fib at 0.618 level. So we had quite a few confluences aligned across the board. The heat map thesis became that much stronger. And so then to me, this was a pretty prime setup to play here. So yeah, this double bottom for me was one of the clearest plays. These upside rejections to the downside were a little bit early, actually. So they rejected a little bit ahead of the nodes. They were a little bit higher. So to me, those weren't a setup. So for me, the best setups I saw today were off of this QQQ as well as SPY and SPX. And if you notice, QQQ we actually came down and bounced off 562 a third time. Um, but again, I won't call that an A setup because by the time we hit it the third time, there's a much lower risk that we're actually going to get a full bounce. But this was definitely a scenario where it did happen, right? And so that was the third possible play in the morning. And yeah, there are likely a few PM plays, but I just wanted this recap to be on some of the best setups I saw from the morning, as I thought these were very clear and a very good example, right, of floors aligning across the three indexes. Also a decent example of air pockets, right? So as we hit this SPX 6370 node, there's very little resistance above. So as price keeps moving upwards, it encounters very little resistance, right? SPY had a bit of resistance here at 637 actually. But and also QQQ, six 564, 565, both of these were also giving enough space for price to bounce a good $2 or $3, right? And that's exactly what happened. We bounced around from 561.5. So we bounced around $3.50, $4. Um, so this was something that, you could see that room to run upwards, developing as you're taking this play, right? Okay, hopefully this was helpful to y'all, and I'll be trying to do these a bit more frequently in the future.